Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to Three Lines TCG. Today I'm going to be doing that deck breakdown I was talking about in the past couple videos. Now, it's my first time doing one of these, and I want to preface, I am no pro. I am no One Piece pro. At best, I'm a platinum level Yu-Gi-Oh player. And at worst, I'm, 3 months into learning One Piece. But I have played this deck quite a lot. We're going to be going over the Black Smoker deck. So today the goal is just basically to read all the cards. We'll go through every card that I have in the deck. And then we'll basically, I'll show some basic combos. I'll kind of say my 2 cents about specific cards that we see. So I'll kind of maybe mention a couple things here and there about what to maybe pay attention to with certain cards. And then we'll kind of, I'll do a, you saw it on the main lobby here, but there was a, I'll just show you now. Solo v Self. So with Solo v Self, I can play against myself. And I'll basically try and show you the combos as best I can. I might edit that and clip that around a bit just to make it a bit more flowing. But otherwise, that's pretty much what we're going to do. One person asked for this in the comments on a couple of videos ago. And I'm a man of the people, so it only takes one person, and I'll pretty much make it. So, hope you enjoy. Like I say, I'm no pro, so I'm going to try my best here to explain everything. But we're going to go over the cards first. Let's start with, of course, our leader. So that's, of course, what your deck is built around. So we have Smoker here. He is a black navy card. He has 5 life and 5k power, which is solid. And if you apply 1 Don once per turn, you can give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 to their cost during this turn. Then, if there is a character with a cost of 0 in play, this leader gains 1,000 power during this turn. So, that's very important, because that's kind of the card effects I was talking about earlier. You know, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the best example. I'm going to probably reference it a lot, but it's basically like monster effects, right? You play a card, and then the card itself has an effect. It's not like an event card that's doing it. It's not an attack. And Smoker, he fully utilizes this with once per turn being able to buff himself, but also subtract the cost of one of your opponent's characters. So it's very important later on when we talk about like some of the combos you can do. But just like the basic combo with Smoker, which I'll probably show you here soon, is literally just if you've got 1 Don left over, so usually it's when you've got 3 Don, it's quite perfect. You'll probably play one of your search cards. You'll apply 1 Don to Smoker. Generally, on the lower turns, your opponent either has a 1-cost character or maybe like a 2-cost character. Usually it's going to be 1 cost. You subtract their cost to 0, and then you get a free 2k power buff. So you're basically swinging with 7k instead of 5k or 6k. So that's kind of nice, and you'll kind of figure out what you can do with Smoker utilizing his effect here. We'll move on to Suru here. She's very important. She's 6'8" as well, by the way. I didn't know that. But so she has plus 2k counter, which is obviously useful. She's 1 cost. You'll never attack with her. She's got 0 power, so you're never going to use her for an attack. It's never worth putting 5 Don on this to get an extra attack in. There's way too many other combos you can do, no matter your draw, pretty much. So you're probably never going to use her to attack, but it's an on-play that is super useful. So give up to one of your opponent's characters and -2 costs to their, -2 to their cost during this turn. So there are several ways that you can play Suru here. Generally, it's actually not a bad thing to have her in your trash, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that later. She's a really useful character to get back onto the field with a certain combo, given that she does -2 to one of your opponent's characters. Otherwise, though, she's not bad to have in your hand, because she has 2k counter. And then ultimately, if you're getting her out of your hand and using the 2k counter, she's in the trash anyway. So she kind of, she's useful there. You can use it as just it's only 1 Don, so you can technically just play it and secure a -2 to one of your opponent's characters. And then let's say they're a 3 cost, right? And you play this card, it gets them down to 1 cost, then you can go back and use Smoker, and you're really only using 2 Don to make that a thing, right? That's just a very basic combo. I'll explain that. It's probably not the best to do that, though. Like, again, everything's situational when it comes to these combos. But that's just like one basic one you could do, right? We'll go to another 1 cost, which is Sengoku. He's pretty solid. He is, again, just your basic sort of generic searcher card. So you may trash 2 black navy type cards from your hand. If your leader has the navy type, which of course Smoker does, you can draw 3 cards. So, like I was saying, there are certain cards that you probably want in your trash in this deck. And so if you have this card available, then you can quite easily trash them and then get 3 other cards that you might need for the actual combo. And in general, it's just a searcher, right? You trash 2, you get 3 cards. So maybe if you've got, if you're in a pickle and you need counters in your hand, you could get rid of 2 cards that don't have a counter, and you could potentially draw 3 cards that do. It's just a pretty generic, you know, like I say, you're probably never going to attack with it, but it's just a pretty basic searcher card, so nothing too crazy there. And it can be used part of a combo if you wanted to, which I'll explain later on. But I mean, generally you're going to want to use Suru for that. We'll start with the second cost now, which is a brand new. Again, another searcher, so you kind of want, usually every deck's going to run 2 different type of searcher cards. This is just the 2 Don one, and it's a little bit more specific. Look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Navy type card other than brand new, and add it to your hand, then trash the remaining cards. So again, a very good way of getting specific cards you want back into your trash in order to get them back on the field to do a big combo, which I'll obviously explain here later. But in general, like I say, it's just another way to get a good Navy card to your hand, which there are plenty in this deck. Pretty basic, though. It's only got a 1k counter, so it's not too crazy. It's 2 Don, and it is 3k power, so, you know, it's a little bit better to, you know, it's only a 2 Don, basically. You only have to apply 2 Don to make this worth, you know, attacking with. Still probably wouldn't recommend it, but situationally, it's a nice option to have. And then let's move on to our 3-cost champs that we have. Oh, no, I missed the 1 event card. Sorry, I missed that because it's the other 1 cost. But you only run 1 event card. I didn't mention this earlier. Now this kind of reminded me. There are pretty much no triggers in this entire deck, right? So you can't play through trigger. This is the only trigger you have. This card is extremely useful, and it kind of plays into your character effects and how you can eliminate a lot of your opponent's characters, because literally the main is to give up to 1 of your opponent's characters -5 to their cost during this turn. So it's only 1 Don. You can guarantee get somebody's cost down from 5 to 0, and generally a lot of people that are playing this are going to have a lot of 5-cost champs, 5-cost characters, so it's a very good way of eliminating them with the combo that we'll kind of show later on. But in general, it's just a really good card. It's the only event card you have, and its trigger is to K up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So it's very situational. Generally, you probably don't want to use that trigger unless you absolutely have to. It really just depends on what you're going against, but the main is a lot more useful with a full combo than the trigger, in my opinion. But it's a 1 cost. The fact that it's a 1 cost, it's so useful for this deck. So Brook is like vital, honestly, to this deck. Early on especially, and a lot of the plays that you'll make and combos you'll make will revolve around Brook. There's probably only 2 more extremely important cards that, you know, are needed for combos, but this is definitely one of them. So one thing I learned with Brook, and this is just playing this deck a lot, and I've probably played with this deck 20, 30 times now, around that, and I've got a pretty high win rate, so I do really enjoy this deck, and I prefer this variant that I'm running right now. I've definitely tried 2 variants, but Brook was in both of them, no matter what. So it's an on-play, and it's a when attacking effect, which is extremely important to take note. So give up to 1 of your opponent's characters, cost -1 for this turn, so -1 cost, then KO up to 1 of your opponent's 0-cost characters. So, if you can kind of tell, we kind of went over at least, including Smoker, but we've included, like, with the Ice Age and with Suru, cards that lower the cost of your opponent's characters. So, if you can get them down to 0, with Brook, you could play it, and you can eliminate the card that's now 0 cost, or when attacking, you can do it. So, and you're guaranteed, no matter what, to subtract 1 cost when attacking or on play as well. So even if you can only get something down to 1 cost, you can play Brook and guarantee that you can eliminate it off the opponent's character area, which is extremely important. It's a 3 cost 4k, which really is important because it's really going to structure how you want to pull off your combos. You know, you're really limited on 5 Don, realistically, but this is when this card kind of becomes useful at 5 and 6 Don, because you really want to take advantage of the on-play and the when attacking. I really would always just play this card just to get it on the field and then just use it as a when attacking effect, but I've learned now that you probably want to hold it in your hand and try and pull off a full combo with the on-play, because otherwise the on-play is kind of useless. So it is situational, but I've definitely learned that I have a higher win rate if I utilize both of its effects, which is the on-play and the when attack. It's the same effect for both, but you just want to be able to use it on-play, eliminate something off the board, and then when you attack next turn, you can still eliminate something off the board. So a very important card. It's a pretty expensive card, I think, too, for that reason. But extremely useful. 3 cost. Brook, my boy, as well. So the next 3 cost is Kobe. I actually added this one. This is new to this variant, actually, I think. Very situational. The next 2 cards that we're going to go... Well, next 3 cards are extremely situational. And this is one of them. So just an on-play, again, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So again, like I say, if you have a certain amount of cards and you can only get one of their characters down to 3 cost, let's say it's a 5 cost character, you've got a Suru, you get it down to 3 cost, you could technically play Kobe and you could eliminate it. You also just want to make sure, though, that you are trashing a card from your hand to do that. So, again, another way to maybe get a more useful card in the grave, in the trash, or a card that is more useful to you in the trash. That's probably the only good time to actually play this card. But just another way to eliminate some cards. It's a 3 cost, it's got 4k power as well, so you could easily swing with 5k or 6k with just adding a couple Don. So it's not too bad of a card, but that's why you only got really 2 of them in the deck, because it's super situational, and I think the other cards are a bit better. And the next card, of course, would be Hina. This is a much better... Honestly, a much better version of Kobe. I would definitely prefer using this. It's not only is it a 3 cost 5k power, so you can swing a lot easier with it, but its on-play effect is very good. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. So that's basically just an upgraded, well, it's a downgraded Ice Age technically, but it also is a actual character that, has 5k swing. So it's very good. It's a very, very good card, and you can utilize this with your combo potentially. But it's a very useful card, and I'll kind of explain what you can do with it later. But the next one is Tashigi. So there's 2 Tashigi cards in this deck. You need 4 of each. These are both very useful. This is the lesser useful one, but still pretty good. It's a 3 cost, 4k power. You've got 2k counter as well. There is no counter on Hina. I guess that would be the only downside. So it's probably not a card that you want to keep in your hand. It's one that you would preferably play. I didn't mention that before, but you got to also keep in mind of the counters. So Tashigi's not too bad to have in your hand. 2k counter. But activate main. You may rest this character, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost during this turn. So you're kind of getting a bit of a trend here. A lot of these cards... half of these cards basically subtract the cost of your characters, and then Brook, as of right now, is pretty much the only one we've seen that can eliminate characters that have a cost of 0. So all these cards kind of play around Brook, and pretty much one other card in this deck that can utilize eliminating these characters. So you can kind of see where the combos are going to be brought up. But this is pretty good, like I say, because it's a 4k power, so like I say, it can be used for attacks. You do have to probably buff it a little bit before you swing. But in general, it's another way to, lower the cost of some of your opponent's characters. With this, though, this is super situational, because you have to make sure that you're fully executing and you're actually getting something out of resting this character. Because of course, when you rest a card, you can't attack with it, and then obviously it's susceptible the next turn to be attacked and be eliminated. And because it's 4k, pretty much anything that's 5k and higher can take it out, and it's probably not worth countering to save it. It's situational, but in general, you want to make sure that when you play this card and when you activate this main, you're actually eliminating a character, an opponent character. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time. So those are your 3 costs. They're pretty basic. In general, one does elimination. The other 2 do a good job of decreasing your opponent's character cost. And of course, Brook is another elimination. So pretty general there. You could kind of see how the combos will work. The second most input, well, honestly, arguably the first, but I would say it's tied with Brook as the most important card in this deck, is Rebecca. I've mentioned it before, and if you've ever seen as to why this card is so expensive, this is completely vital to pull off any combos, and this deck can't really be a trash-focused deck without Rebecca, because her whole card is basically returning cards from the trash to the field. So not only is she a blocker, which is extremely useful, you'll never attack with her because she's got 0 power, but she's a blocker, so it's a free defensive maneuver as well. Counter 1k, you probably don't want to put her in the trash. She's probably better on the field, but in a pinch, you can counter 1k with her. But she's a blocker. On play, return up to 1 black character other than Rebecca with a cost of 3 to 7 from the trash to your hand. Then play 1 cost 3 or less black character from your hand to the field rested. So this is vital to setting up your combos, right? So all of those on plays I was talking about earlier, like Suru, like Hina, even Kobe, right? All of the, even Brooke, right? All of these on plays are super important, and you can utilize them with Rebecca because you're returning a character from the trash that's 3 to 7. So that's a card that you want to be in your hand and you want to probably play. And we'll go over some of the 7 cost. Well, there's 1 7 cost and there's a couple of other high cost champs that are probably more useful to get back to your hand from the trash. But the second part of this is what's important, because you're playing a cost 3 or less black character from your hand, and it's just a black character. So it's not specific to Navy, it's not specific to Straw Hats or Deserosa or whatever. It's just a black character that is a cost 3 or less. So, let's say, you've got Rebecca, you play her, you've now got a blocker, you get something back from the trash to your hand, and then you've got a Hina in your hand. You can then play it with its ability without having to use the 3 Don. And let's say they've got a 5 cost character. Well, now they're 1 cost, right? And then you can go back to Smoker. You could then put a Don on Smoker, get that character's cost down to 0, you get 7k swing on Smoker, and then if you've already got a Brook on the field, then you can eliminate that card, right? So you can kind of see where the playability, where the combos kick in with Rebecca. She's extremely important to this build. The other blocker, while we're here on blockers, is Borsellino. Underrated, I think. I think he's very, very good. It's all based on he gets buffs basically when he's on the field, because when it's your opponent's turn, this character gains 1,000 power and cannot be KO'd by effects. You'll kind of see that KO'd by effects. That's kind of how this entire deck is structured around, but it's very useful, especially to have on a blocker. So it means it has to attack in order to. You have to basically block with it for it to be eliminated off the field, and pretty much it starts at 6k power, right? Because when it's your opponent attacking, it's going to get plus 1,000 power, so it's going to have 6k. So it's very easy to counter out if you're blocking with this as well. Let's say they attack with 7k power, you only have to get rid of a 2k counter card from your hand, and you can prevent that attack. So Borsellino is just solid. It's also just a Navy, black Navy card. So all these other cards I was talking about, where like you maybe want to get something from the trash to your hand, or if you wanted to draw it from Sengoku, right? This would be maybe one of those cards that you'd hope to draw. Or even Branu, right? Reveal up to 1 Navy type card other than Branu. This is probably, the Borsellino is probably the one that you'd want to take. It's solid defense. It's just a good way to get a guaranteed, guaranteed blocker hit. So Borsellino is just a solid thing. You only really need 2 because you're going to have 4 Rebeccas anyway, because that's vital. So then the other one is Kuzan. It's the other 4 cost. On play, draw 1 card. So pretty generic, but when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. So it's quite good because, again, it's a 5k power, 4 Don character. So you're guaranteed, as long as their leader has 5k power, which generally they all do, you're always going to be able to guarantee swing with 5k on their leader. And then while you do that, you can -4 cost to one of your opponent's characters at that turn, and then you can set up all the other combos. Maybe with Brooke at that point, you can guarantee eliminate that card if it's a 5 cost, or you can get another 7k on Smoker by subtracting another 1 cost, again, in the situation of it being against a 5 cost champ. And on play, it's a draw 1 card. So kind of like what I was saying earlier with, like, Rebecca, for example. Well, it won't really work too well with Rebecca because it has to be a cost 3 or less. But let's say this is the card that you returned from the trash to your hand, and then you played it. You can guarantee get another card in your hand. Let's talk about T-Bone next. He's probably, in my opinion, the worst card in this deck, right? He's super situational. You're probably never going to use his on-play, right? His on-play is K up to one of your opponent's characters, 2 cost or lower... K up to one of your opponent's 2 cost or lower characters. So basically, he's like a Kobe without having to trash a card. He's 2 more Don. He's got a 5k power, so you've got, like, a potential swing there. But otherwise, that's really it. He's not... I've never utilized his on-play at all. What I use T-Bone for is the 2k counter. So, in my opinion, this is one of those cards that you just keep in your hand, and you use it to counter out. You know, it's situational to use it, but I just think with the other cards that I'm going to show here towards the higher Don cards, you're just going to get more benefits with 5 Don, right? I mean, this is just kind of a waste of 5 Don, but it's a solid 2k counter. It's a black navy card, so you can utilize it with brand new and things like that. So, because again, with brand new, you have to discard the other cards. So, if let's say with this card, the 2 cost, you draw Borsalino, and then you draw a T-Bone, you know, you're going to take the Borsalino and then you don't mind getting rid of T-Bone, right? But T-Bone, like I say, in general, I usually keep that in my hand and I counter out with it. Otherwise, I don't really utilize his on-play. I could be wrong there, I mean, but again, just every time I've played it, it's just never made sense to actually use it. It's situational, so again, you know, you can, that's up to you and what situation you're in. But Tashigi, the other tier 5, is much better, right? Not only is it 5 cost, it's got 6k power, so it's got a higher swing potential, 6k swing. And on play, if your leader is Smoker, which it is, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost this turn, right? So, it's an on play. You can only do it that 1 turn, so you want to save this card in your hand until you can guarantee wipe something off your opponent's board. But it has a dual effect where activate main once per turn. If it is the turn this character was played, place up to one of your opponent's characters, one of your opponent's 0 cost characters to its owner's trash. So, extremely situational, right? And you have to time this perfectly, because you can only do it the second it's summoned. So basically, on play, when you play it, you can -4 cost something, and then on that same turn, you can eliminate something that's got 0 cost, right? So the extremely basic, let's just say you had 6 Don, right? You've got 6 Don, you play this, you know, you subtract in, let's say, okay, just bear with me here. Your opponent has a 5 cost champ on their character area. You've got 6 Don, you play Tashigi, right? You -4 cost to their 5 cost character. You then place your 1 remaining Don on Smoker, right? It subtracts 1 cost and it gives it 7k. Their character now has 0 cost, and then you can then use Tashigi's effect to eliminate that card, right? So that's a very basic 6 Don play that you can do utilizing Tashigi and Smoker, right? You're not going to be able to attack that same turn, but with Smoker, you can still get a nice 2k power buff and swing with 7k. So that's just very solid. If your opponent only has 1 card on the field, you can eliminate it, and you can still get a solid attack in. So, very useful. And just in general, once you've still got it out on the field, it's still a thing to, you know, be worried about. It's still a pain in the ass, because it's got 6k power. So, you could quite easily add a couple Don to that, you know, the next couple turns, and start swinging with 7, 8k, right? And you become a bit of a nuisance. So, although all of its effects can only be used the turn that you play it, it's still not too bad of a card to have on the field later on. So, very, very solid card. It's just, there's really no competition. This is the card you'd want to play instead of T-Bone, right? It's just so much more useful. It has elimination, and it has -4 cost in, you know, 1 play. So, it's just much better. So that's that. That's the probably third most important card. Let's go over the newest edition that I did. So this was vital to the second variant of this deck, and this is probably my most favorite change. It's from OP08, so it's Jack. It's a 7-cost, 8k power. This character has 4 cost, so it ends up when it's on the field. It's an 11 cost basically. An activate main, you may rest this card, draw 1 card, and trash 1 card from your hand, then KO up to one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower characters. So, in my opinion, I've always said this, it's pretty much just an upgraded Brook, right? It's a Brook with an 8k swing. It costs a lot more, of course. It costs 4 more Don. But it also has a bit of hand manipulation too, right? You can draw a card, you can trash a card. So if there's a specific card you want to set up for a later combo, then you can do that with Jack. And you can KO up to a 3-cost character. So, again, if you're a bit short, if you don't quite have the combo that you want, you can't get a character down to 0 cost, you can utilize Jack if it's only at 3 cost after you subtracting everything. So, it's very useful. The only downside to Jack that I would say is that you've really got to decide, and I had this happen in the last game I played against Matt, of whether his ability is worth using or you just swing with 8k, right? Because, again, if you activate your main, you're resting the card, so you can't attack with it. So you've got to determine whether it's better to... the card you're trying to eliminate is worth getting rid of, or you just getting an extra attack in, you know? So that's something I would recommend. The only thing that, you know, you would never think would be a factor is that this character has +4 cost, so basically it becomes an 11 cost. That means that this deck with Jack can counter other black decks, right, that have this similar mechanic of lowering the cost of your characters to eliminate them. It's very hard, even with this deck. You've got to get the perfect card setup to eliminate a card with the card effects of, you know, even 8k and 8 cost and higher, right? 8 Don and higher. It's very hard to do that. If you're going against decks that really have 4 and 5 costs, you can pretty much sweep all of them with the card effects. But when you start getting to like 8 Don, 9 Don, 10 Don, it's really hard to subtract 10 Don and eliminate it with like Brook, or eliminate it with Kobe or Jack. You know, it's very hard to do. So Jack has a built-in counter to that, because 11 cost is very hard to get down to 0 and to eliminate. Or even then, get down to 3 and eliminate, right? So it's kind of got a dual purpose there, but it's probably the only thing that you'll probably never have to worry about, but it's just something to mention. And then the last card that we need to talk about is Moria, right? This card is basically how you can get all your combos, right? So the combo is usually Mora and Rebecca, right? You want Gecko and Rebecca together, and you can pull off some crazy stuff. So 8 cost, so you do have to keep that in mind, right? It's a pretty high, so you can't really do this combo until you get to 8 Don, but it has 9k power. So after you've done the on play and done the full combo, it's again it's a pain in the ass to have for your opponent, because swinging with 9k is no joke, right? You can do quite a lot of damage with that. So very, very just a good card in general, high cost and high power. But on play, choose up to 1 cost 4 or less, and add up to 1 cost 2 or less. I hate the way they've worded this. Choose up to 1 4 cost, that's how it should be read, 4 cost or less, and up to 1 2 cost or less character card from your trash, play one of them, and then play the remaining rested, right? So this is where you can utilize pretty much all of the combos that I've mentioned that are like for the 4 cost, right? So this is where if you wanted to draw a card, right, you could play Moria, choose up to 1 4 cost or less, and then 2 cost less from your trash. So if you've got Kuzan in your trash, you can then play Kuzan with this effect. You'll then draw a card, and then you can play another 2 cost or less character. So in theory, you could then also get a Sengoku, and then you can draw another 3 cards, right? As long as you can trash 2 Navy cards in your hand. So that's like the combo if you wanted to draw a lot of cards. You're probably never going to use that, but it's just an option, right? And then the other option, which is the best option, is to use Moria, get Rebecca, and then you can use Rebecca's effect, and then you can really get a cool combo going with Suru, some of these other lower cost ones, even Branu if you want to get a quick search in. But if you've got like a Hina in your hand, you can do some crazy stuff, right? And that's kind of what I'll try and explain. It's very complicated, but it's again pretty situational. But you can really get a big combo with Moria, and it's kind of required for you to pull this off. But again, like I say, the best combo is usually with Moria and Rebecca, and then you can use both effects to eliminate a lot of characters on your opponent's board. So that's pretty much the deck. I know that was probably confusing. I don't even know if I did a good job there. Just yapping. But yeah, that's pretty much reading what all of them are. You can kind of put 2 and 2 together as to what's going to work well. But let's go ahead and do like a little one-on-one, and I'll show you firsthand probably the best way to play with these cards depending on how much Don you have. So that's pretty much going to be the end of the video. We went over all the cards in the deck, and I'm just going to show you 3 combos here at the end. Probably they're mainly going to be with Moria and how you can, in this case, the first combo, I'm going to show you how you can get rid of a 10 cost character from your opponent's character area. I think that's pretty important to see be done. And then the other combos I'll kind of show you are going to be around Moria, but then if you don't want to use Moria, you can use like a Tashigi Brook combo, and you can still eliminate 3 cards. So I'll just show you that here right now. I'm playing against my Enel yellow deck here, so I just wanted to make sure that I can get this 10 cost out on the field pretty quickly. And then I'll show you the full combo. But like I said, that's pretty much going to be the video. So if you have any questions, any further questions about this, then feel free to let me know down below. If you want me to do other deck building videos, then I can obviously do that as well. This is my first time doing it. So if there's specific cards, different variants that you maybe want to see, even with this deck, or maybe you know, have a suggestion or 2 as to how this deck can be improved even more, I don't mind testing it. I did do a stream this week as well. I plan to do some more streaming, so I will probably end up streaming this game as well. So if you want to stop by on the live stream, I'm going to stream here on YouTube, then you can feel free to do so, and you can watch some more live games. So we start with Ice Age here, right, to guarantee get Ace down to -5 cost, and then I'm going to use Moria, because we want to get like a kind of a higher cost and a lower cost. We probably want to start with Tashigi. Just want to make sure. Yeah, so we do Tashigi, and then we can use Suru as well to replace Sengoku. So it gets him down to -7 cost now. So he's at 3. So technically from here we could just use Jack and eliminate him. But we can really get a bit more value if we go ahead and use Tashigi, because she can't attack this turn anyway, so we may as well rest her. It gets Ace down to -9, and then we can use the remaining Don on Smoker, get him down to 0, give Smoker a 7k buff. If we had Brook on the field, we could use him to eliminate the Ace as well, but because we have Jack, we can kind of you know, get at least another draw. We can get another card in our hand. We can set up Rebecca for next turn just because I had so many in my hand, and then we can eliminate Ace with Jack that way and still swing with 7k. So it's not a terrible turn. A little bit more to go, you know, going on there with that combo, but just another way where you can use Moria to even eliminate a 10 cost character. So this next combo here I'm going to show you is the Moria-Rebecca combo. This is the one that you're going to more predominantly use. It just requires you having a Rebecca in your trash, which is pretty easy to do given that she's a 0 power blocker. So that's the best way to get her into the trash. You probably don't want to use her as a counter. It's probably easier and better using her as a blocker. But we get Moria out. And then we can get Rebecca out on the field as well. So ignore that I'm using a Nell against my opponent. Just notice that it's 2/5 cost. That's kind of the goal of this, showing you this. So we get Suru out as we would normally do, and then we can -2 cost one of them. So we -2 cost the Nami. It's now a 3 cost. And this is a really good setup because, of course, we have Jack and we have Brook, so we have options. But in this case, you know, maybe we'd want to use Kobe. Go ahead and take advantage of Rebecca's ability. So we go ahead and use Kobe and we replace Suru. And then that means we can use the card action. We'll have to discard a Navy card. It sucks discarding Tashigi, but that's okay. And then we get rid of Nami that way. And because we still have 2 Don, and we have Brook and Smoker abilities, we can still get rid of this tier 5 as well because of Jack. So it's a bit situational, like it would be quite hard to get all of this lined up, but it's just more the fact that you can. You'd use your remaining Dong on Brook because you're using the on attack play now, so you can still swing on the leader, and then that now gets the tier 5 down to -2, making him a 3 cost. And we'll just figure out, we'll just probably just let this one go through, this attack, just for the sake of showing you this. And then, this is where I talk about where Jack is, you've got to decide what to do, right? So if that tier 5, I mean, in this case, this is just using an example, the tier 5 we're going to kill here isn't really useful enough. You'd probably want to just swing with Jack in this particular instance, but let's just pretend like there's more life and that the 5 cost that we're going against is super vital to get off the character area. In this case, because we got it to -2, it's now a 3 cost. We can then use Jack's ability here to go ahead and get rid of it. So it's just another way to get rid of 2 5 costs on the character area. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. Again, like I say, with this Enel deck, it's a little different, but it's just more the fact to show you the combo. We would get rid of Jack here because we just don't need another one, and then boom. So there, just like that, we've eliminated both of the characters. We can still swing with 6k at least on Smoker, so we still have some sort of presence, even though we kind of used our whole board. But the cool thing about using Moria Rebecca is that it's kind of defensive. So not only are you wiping out the character area, but you have a blocker for next turn, and then next turn you're going to be able to attack a swing with a 9k, that is, Moria, and then you've got other options on the character area as well, just to make your opponent think, right? Because then they're like, okay, do I wipe his board, or do I direct attack? And because we still have 2 life, it's kind of at least in this case, right, it's kind of a nice place to be. So that's more of like the defensive setup for next turn, but you can still eliminate 2 5 cost characters on your opponent's character area. So that's just another way to do the combo. Probably going to use that more often than not. And then the last combo I'll show you here is just using a Tashigi and Brook combo. So if you're at like 9 Don and you don't want to use the Moria combo here, because in this case we've got a 5 cost and we've got 2 powerful 3 cost with the Zoro here, this is a way for you to be able to eliminate all 3 of those cards. So we start with Tashigi. Obviously, it's a -4 cost to one of your opponent's characters, so we'll do that on Marco. Honestly, this is a terrible example in the sense that Marco is going to come back, right? But just pretend Marco is any other 5 cost, and this combo will obviously work. So we do the Smoker, the Tashigi Smoker combo, right? It gets Marco down to 0 cost. We get the 7k power swing on Smoker, and then we can go ahead and use Tashigi, the other Tashigi, because she's on the field. Rest her, give -2 cost to the other Zoro. And then here is when we're going to want to play Brook. We use the on play in order to subtract another 1 cost from the Zoro. And then we have an option of which one we want to get rid of. Let's just get rid of Marco, I guess. Or we can get rid of, we can just get rid of Marco. Of course, Marco is different in this particular deck because he can come back from the trash by discarding an event card. So just for the sake of this, I want to cancel, but I guess I actually have to do it. So let me just get rid of this event card here. So it is back, so, I mean, obviously wouldn't be the best play in this case, but just pretend that that's a 5 cost, right? We're getting rid of that. And so now we've got a 0 cost Zoro, and we have still a 3 cost Zoro. So now we can use Tashigi's other effect, because we summoned it this turn, to eliminate another 0 cost. So there's the Zoro gone. So there's 2 of the characters gone. And then technically here, right, we can actually swing with Smoker, and we can eliminate the Zoro, right? So that's basically a 2-card elimination through effects, and then you can actually attack with Smoker at 7k, which is still a solid attack to try and eliminate another character. You could obviously attack his leader directly if you wanted to as well, but that's just another way, another sort of combo where you don't have to technically use Moria. 9 times out of 10 you'd want to use Moria, but here we didn't have Rebecca, right? We didn't have like some of the other better combos to do, so this is just another situational thing you can do and still eliminate 3 cards off your opponent's character area. But that is going to do it for today's deck breakdown of the Black Smoker deck. Like I said before, if you've got any questions, if you want me to edit around the deck and test some things out that maybe you have some theories of, then feel free to let me know down below, and I'll gladly do so. I have started streaming as well. I'm streaming here on this channel. I'm going to be doing mainly gaming streaming. I will potentially do later on like actual openings on here. Mainly my channel is a lot of openings like for videos, but I figured for live streams I can kind of mess around and do some more of the variety stuff that I do enjoy, which does include like Hearthstone and I think we're actually going to start a Stardew Valley multiplayer campaign, I guess that's how you'd call it. But we're going to do some cool stuff on there, and I obviously will play some One Piece TCG Simulator as well. So if you want to tune in live and watch me play with this deck and other decks, then stay tuned for things like that. But like I say, just let me know down below if you enjoyed this and want to see more of videos like this, and I can try and do my best to show off combos and go over certain decks. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.